Greetings everybody, I am Lobo. Welcome to Luna. This is episode 158 of my Minecraft survival series. Today, we're going to be making our way back to the quarantine district over to, looks like I got a broken potato farm down there I'll have to take care of a little bit later. Today we're going to be heading back over to the quarantine district to the site of our creeper farm, where last time we were over here we worked on the exterior a little bit in preparation for working on the interior in this episode, but I changed my mind about that. We're not going to be working on the interior. We're going to come back to the exterior because I've been looking at this and I'm just not happy with it. I mean, among other things, it's just kind of boring. Well, I guess boring is pretty subjective. Let me kind of elaborate on how I'm feeling about this thing right now. So, you know, it's just kind of flat and it's kind of repetitive. Like, if you look at the diagonal right here, like, it doesn't really bring much. I thought the diagonal would be more exciting than it actually is. It's not. It's just flat. It's a repeated pattern over and over again. I remember saying last episode, or the last episode we were actually over here working, that we would put stuff on the sides and kind of, you know, hide the repeated pattern and make it look not so. Yeah, no, forget about that. Forget about that because this is going to be the biggest thing over here. There's nothing that's going to cover all this. So some changes are going to need to be made. And this happens sometimes, you know, it happens. Sometimes you walk away from something, you come back, look at it, and you're like, wow, I'm really not happy with that. But the great thing about this game is that we can always come back and kind of change things up a little bit. I think what would be beneficial, because I'm going to tear down most of this diagonal section, I think what would be beneficial, is if we got a little bit of haste going. There we go. There we go. All right, that is feeling much, much better. So we'll make short work of this. One thing I do want to go ahead and say is that, you know, last time over here, I was kind of building without a plan. You know, I had an idea in my head of what I wanted to do, and sometimes it works out, sometimes it doesn't, you know? Now I have an idea, though, sketched out on paper, which I think is going to be much, much better and much more in keeping with what I want Wolfen's laboratory to look like. So here's the plan to start off with. We're going to get rid of most of this diagonal right here. We're going to keep this bottom layer right here, this very bottom section of diagonal, but everything above that is going to have to go. We're going to get rid of it. It's going to be gone because, as I said, it looks too flat. I want to add some depth into this. So we're going to kind of, you know, bring everything in. We're going to kind of make it more hourglass shaped, I guess, would be a good way to describe it, because we can't get rid of it entirely because we got all our rails and stuff here. Now, originally, I was planning on making use of this space. You know, we do have a lot of space in this area, and I was originally planning on using this for farms and stuff with regard to our botanical analysis division. But, yeah, I was just thinking, you know, maybe we can sacrifice that, do those farms somewhere else in favor of making this place more aesthetically pleasing, or at least more in the aesthetic of what I want Wolfen's laboratory to ultimately look like. So we know what we're going to do first. We're going to tear out the diagonal. I also need to gather a bunch of acacia because we're going to be using a lot of that as we move forward with this. So at this point, why don't we go ahead and call Wolfred on over here, put on a little bit of music, and get started. Welcome back, everybody. We have reached a point in our episode where we can finally start building. So materials have been acquired. We got the diagonal torn out aside from this bottom section right here. The remainder of this wall is going to be pushed more towards the center here. And we'll probably make that with cobblestone walls. So we'll have a cobblestone wall here in the center. As far as the sides of these main buildings right here, I have some interesting plans for this one in particular. We're gonna be playing around with a lot of depth and shadow. Hopefully it ends up working out, but we're gonna start with the easy stuff first. We're gonna go ahead and start working on this wall. So obviously we're not throwing out everything we did the last time we were here. In fact, we're building on it right now. We're going to continue the same design that we have around the rest of this building. I need to change my beacon back to jump boost. So I think we're just going to go ahead and start by getting one side of this design in just to make sure it works, because honestly, I don't want to have to tear anything else out. That would be a waste of my time. It'd be a waste of your time. So yeah, we're just going to go ahead and work on this side first. And then if it does end up working out, we'll continue to design over there on the opposite end of the rails. So this will be about as far as we're going to take this for right now, because this is where it's going to meet up with our cobblestone wall here at the center. So you can kind of see where that's going to ultimately end up running. And I want to make this with a block that light can shine through, because as I said, we're going to be playing with depth and shadow, and we want to be able to add and subtract light as needed over here. I really wish I could do something about this rain. I don't think I can sleep. I think I missed my opportunity for that. It's already, I think, daytime. Oh, we got danger. That's okay. We know just how to handle danger. We're going to use aerial ace. We were going to. He avoided it. That's not right. Anyway, back to work. Something else we're going to do this side, since the top of this does look pretty flat, pretty boring. We're going to kind of change this thing up a little bit by making these acacia logs go up and making this thing a little bit pointier, a little bit more intimidating. So to demonstrate what I was actually talking about, we talked about this too, how I tell you what I'm going to do in the next clip, you actually see it done, and how it'd be more beneficial for me to just do it and show you. It's such a bad habit, but I'm still in it. Anyway, you can see how this goes up a little bit, and we're going to have them do that more as they go back. So this next acacia log column will be a little bit taller, and so on and so forth all the way back. Oh my goodness, I just realized I did it again. I could have waited to this clip to show you how things were going to go taller and taller as they go back. You know, I think me announcing what I'm going to do in the clip immediately following, that's just something you and I are both going to have to learn to live with, okay? All right, so let's go ahead and land and see how this actually looks. I think I like that. In fact, we could even slant the roof line a little bit as well to keep with that. I do like the pointy acacia, or the protruding pointy acacia. I think maybe we could carry that to other places as well. And we could kind of use this as like a unifying feature on the Wolfen's laboratory builds to make them more cohesive with one another. I think I like that. I think I like that idea, in fact. All right, so I added a couple more in here in areas that I think make sense. I just want to check in. Yeah, I do like that. I am getting sidetracked. Right now. I realize that, but you know, what are you gonna do when inspiration strikes? What are you gonna do but roll with it, right? You just got to roll with it. But let's go ahead and shift focus back to our main project now. So we pretty much know what this is going to look like, right? So now we need to think about what this front section is going to look like, our actual creeper farm of the creeper farm, right? This front section I think is going to remain how it is, but this back section, like where there's nothing there yet, is going to change a little bit, because I want to add a more interesting profile to this thing. So what I think we're going to do is kind of run it back a little bit, kind of slant it back to where it's overhanging this center area. I think maybe we could run it back so far that it actually probably overhangs this building as well. Let's go ahead and experiment. See if we can get the angle on this right. See if we can match up with what I have sketched out. And you know, me walking back a project, this usually happens as I'm building. You know, we usually don't do these in separate episodes, because this actually does happen more than you realize, because a lot of this stuff where I mess up and redo stuff, it does occur within each episode pretty much. I always walk something back. It's just that you don't always see it, because we usually get a project pretty much done in an episode, and I cut out a lot of that stuff. This project though, since it's bigger, since it's a very large project, it's happening, you know, on a longer time frame, which is why we're dedicating another episode to kind of, you know, finalizing the exterior of this. I think maybe this is about as far down as we want to go, and then we'll start running things out just a little bit. So let's go ahead and put this here, just kind of mark where that's going to be. Then we'll run this out a little bit and try to start angling this, kind of rounding it off. And then adding, you know, this would be a lot easier if I had Wolford over here. And I think I'm going to go ahead and build out all the acacia supports at once. That way, you know, I don't have to, you know, go back and remember how much we're going up by in each little section as we're curving this thing off. So, and this is one of the things about having multiple counts. I feel like I underutilize a lot, you know? Because now I can actually see what I'm doing from two different angles, which I think is going to be very beneficial to us for something like this. So I think at about this point, maybe, this is where we should start kind of rounding things off a bit more and getting more of an overhang going. And as we transition from a vertical section into this more horizontal section, keeping in mind the same block count that we use, and we're going to kind of replicate that on this just to get like a little bit of, I don't know, sideways symmetry going. I don't know if that's an actual thing, but that's what I'm saying. Sideways symmetry. There we go. So I think that is about as far out as we're going to go, because that's right beneath our cobblestone wall right here. And I want this to stretch around the whole thing. So yeah, that's probably about as far out as we're going to take this. I wish I would have used some cobblestone stairs like on the bottoms of these to kind of round it off a little bit better. We could still do that. We're still going to do that, but it would have been easier to handle that, you know, as we were building this up rather than, you know, after the fact. But, oops, wrong. But we could always, as we're building up the second, you know, the attached acacia pillars that are right next to this, which are going to go at a slight diagonal, we could just go ahead and add our cobblestone stairs in here as we're doing this. It's so hard to do stuff when I'm talking. And we do need to make sure we get our stairs in here on the insides as well, because even though you're not going to be able to see them, we need to make sure we don't have any spawnable blocks, because remember, this is a mob farm and we don't need anything spawning anywhere near it. Actually, you know what? Here's a novel idea. How about we work smarter, not harder, Lobo? We could just scaffold up here and then place our stairs where they need to be and then just stack our acacia right on top of them. I think that's probably the way to do this. And slabs would probably be a better, if not cheaper, option for making this thing non-spawnable. So, as I said, we're just doing this one side right now. Let's go ahead and see how this looks. And if we like it, we can do the other side a little bit later. I think that's going to work for us, actually. I do think I like that. So it looks strong, it looks supported, and we can build our little overhang elytra landing pad thing on top of that. That's what that's supposed to be. I don't know if I mentioned that. I want to put an elytra landing pad up there. Nope, just reviewed some previous footage and never mentioned the elytra landing pad. So yeah, the overhang section right here, this is going to be where we're going to have an elytra landing pad, much like the one we have over at the Eclipse Outpost, which is also run by Wolfen's Laboratory. That way, it just makes it easier for me to get to my AFK spot up here. Just kind of expedite the process when I'm done filming for the day. I can just land up here, walk into my AFK spot, and just let that be that, right? Next step, though, would be to continue kind of fill in the gaps between the wall that we have and the acacia pillars that we just put in. And there's nothing too complicated about this part of the process. We're basically just stretching out each of these sections a little bit. So this is going to need a couple shuttered windows, some boarded up windows in here, because remember, you know, Wolfen's Laboratory, their whole aesthetic is, you know, evil, abandoned, quarantined area. So obviously everything is kind of shut down right now. Let me go ahead and get these bottom ones in here. I only did a couple sections, but that's enough to give us a good idea of what it's actually going to look like as we go up, right? The next thing I know I'm going to want to do, and I know I'm going to want to do this because I mentioned this earlier, is we're going to take our cobblestone wall railing that goes around this entire thing and kind of stretch this around, which means we do need to figure out the shape of this front section, or I guess this is the back section of this thing, the section where our elytra landing pad is going to be. We need to go ahead and start shaping this out, and I'm going to start kind of rounding this off towards the center here. Oops. Ow. All right, I guess this is as good a time as any to go ahead and take a peek at this and see how it's looking. Yeah, I think, so that's the shape of this thing, right? I think that's actually looking pretty good. Much better than it was before, at least. So now we know the shape of our two main buildings for the most part, because we're going to do something a little bit extra on the top of this thing here, because we do need to house our AFK room within this structure, right? And what I have drawn out, I'll go ahead and explain. It's kind of like a shark's fin that's going to be kind of sticking out of this, and it's going to swoop down and connect to this smaller building over here using the cobblestone wall that goes up the center as kind of, you know, the sides of it. So it is going to cut through this and kind of, I don't know, it's kind of hard to explain. It's going to go up and then swoop on down through this and then connect to that building, right? It's kind of hard to explain. It's kind of hard to imagine how I'm going to actually do this and have it look decent. So there's a pretty good chance that I might have to tear down and rebuild this thing once, twice, 3, 4, 5 times. So there's no point in me really talking you through the process since I don't really know how it's going to work out, or I can't really imagine how it's going to work out. So I think the best thing to do would be to try doing that in a time lapse, but we do know how everything else is going to look, right? So we can also go ahead and take care of that and then start working on that. So I think that's probably how we're going to handle this. We should probably go ahead and call Redone over here, put on a little bit of music, and see if we can get this thing done. I almost forgot the most essential part of this, the pointy, protruding acacia logs that are going to pop out, but now we have those in. All right, welcome back, everybody, and now we have the creeper farm looking much better. That actually, the little thing at the top, the little AFK room section at the top, and the path leading up to it through the skinny section, that actually wasn't as bad as I was thinking it would be. So, you know, hopefully you got a pretty good idea of what I was doing with it via the time lapse. But yeah, I'm feeling much better about this build than I was in, you know, the previous episode where we built it, or at least how I was feeling after that episode. I think this is much better. The only thing I don't like is being able to see all this light coming through. I think the cobblestone walls right here was probably a mistake. We should have probably gone with solid blocks throughout this. Because originally I was planning on, you know, experimenting with like light and stuff like that, but honestly, I wish it was all shadow now. I think I'm gonna go ahead and go inside and try to find a way to eliminate at least some of the light. So as we proceed inside, you will notice that there is no actual interior. That's something that we were going to be handling in this episode. Now we're pushing that back a little bit because we had to redo the exterior. I think the best way to eliminate the light would probably just be to kind of block off everything that would allow light to reach these cobblestone walls. Because we're not going to take out the torches because we do need this place to remain non-spawnable. So yeah, I think blocking it off is probably going to be our best bet. And that does appear to be working. I have Wolford Station just outside watching to make sure this is actually having at least some effect. And it does appear to. So basically, I'm only really focusing on making the area closest to the creeper farm, the largest building, as shadowed as possible. I'm not too worried about the other side because it's nice to see a little bit of variation in this section, considering it is all just one block type. So that should take care of it for the most part. I also want to go ahead and get rid of, you know, some of these torches here at the bottom. As I said, I'm not too focused on this side as much as I am the side closest to the creeper farm. But you know, that might change. You know, later on we might want to come back and just encase this whole thing in shadow. I don't know. That's something I'm new to. You know, I don't really do a whole lot of experimenting with light and stuff in this game, but I'm thinking I might start because it's actually kind of, you know, interesting seeing how, you know, we can vary up our builds using not just blocks, but different, I don't know, you know what I'm saying. Anyway, let me go ahead and kind of get rid of all this light down here. I think we're going to just go ahead and slab over all this. Oh, instantly it's so much creepier in here, but it's still safe because we slabbed over everything. So again, our chief concern is to make sure that everything is non-spawnable in here. We might come back and experiment with the, you know, taking some more light out a bit later, but I'm not too focused on that right now. I wanted the structure built in here. The structure is built in here. We do still need to work on the interior. The exterior is not even really done yet because eventually we're going to come back and kind of ruin it a little bit because it still looks a little bit too pristine to be abandoned. Eventually we'll come back in, we'll add some vines, some foliage, some, you know, maybe take out some blocks here and there, make it look like it's crumbling, falling apart. But we're going to save that until we work on the quarantine district as a whole. Oh man, look how big this thing is compared to our windmill, which was our previous largest build in Luna. This thing is huge. It's towering. It's intimidating. It's looking much more how I want Wolfen's laboratory in the quarantine district to look. I'm liking this. At least I do right now. We all know that can change in between episodes, right? As this did before. But I think this is a huge improvement over what we've done previously. So when we come back, we'll have to obviously do the interior, get our AFK room sorted out, maybe play around with the lighting a little bit more. I don't know yet. But I do think that is pretty much all the time I have for today. So I hope you guys enjoyed this episode. If you did, please, I missed my stop. All right. Oh, now I make it. Okay. Well, anyway, as I was saying, I hope you guys enjoyed this episode. If you did, please be sure to hit that little thumbs up button. That would mean a whole lot to me. If you want to see more, please remember to subscribe. And as always, I just want to thank you guys for hanging out with me today. I deeply appreciate it. And until next time, I am Lobo, and I will see you guys later.